Welcome back to the Street Shaman Podcast. I am your host, Shamanic Poe, aka Poe and the Rock Star. And today I'm here with what I want to call her is the anti-feminist, Mandy Wolf, owner of the Godmother channel. What's up? How you been?
Really good. Very good. How are you?
I've been good. I've been chilling. So let's just get right into it. So how did you find yourself here? Like meaning how did you become like one of the anti-feminists?
Um, like on online or
Just in life in general and obviously online.
well, in life, I didn't even know feminism was a thing. So I
No?
never no. I mean I heard it talked about a few times, but I kind of took it as a joke because the things that they were saying were ridiculous, and I didn't really
Okay.
expect that people listened to those people. But yeah.
Okay. So how what were the things that they were saying? Like what was it that kind of you looked at and said, "All right, that's weird or that's off."
Well, it was a couple on like media, uh, mainstream media, just spouting nonsense. Like they need equal representation in certain places based on sex. And my first thought was like, okay, that's weird. That sounds like a sexist kind of idea. Like, why why would you need equal representation in a certain area that, like, say engineering, for instance, when
Right.
that's predominantly men are interested in that?
Right,
So
right.
it just it never made sense. Just a few things I heard about it.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I understand what you're saying cuz they want equal representation, but at the same time they're not even interested in that topic, right? So
Right.
how can you have equal representation if there's not the equal amount of people that are actually interested in that specific field?
Right.
So, right? So,
Right. Well, and then finding out their their fix for that is more recruiting. They say, well, they're not interested because they don't know about it. They're not aware. So they
mm,
recruit all these people into these, like they talk them into doing stuff that they're not even really built or designed for. So
right, right. So they're basically just telling people a fixed uh, facts or anti-facts, whatever works for that type of demographic to get you in the door. So it'd be like, oh, well, did you hear about this, that, and the third, and not and disregarding all the information that goes against what they're saying,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Just to be like, hey, we need to reel you in. So
yeah.
why do you think that so many women that attend college become so radicalized by this?
Oh, they're professors. Um, they have gender studies professors that are absolutely mental and
Hmm.
emotionally unstable, and they feed them full of these lies and like freak these women out. So it kind of radicalizes them and causes them to become man hating. So
Mm.
yeah.
Do you think that there's possibly some type of trauma that a lot of these women have dealt with in their past that made them fall into this life or like follow this so fast? Because there has to be some like prerequisite experience that be like, well, that might be for me because I've dealt with all these assholes or I've
Right.
my dad is a piece of shit or whatever.
Right. Well, something that I've noticed only because I've seen it happen with clients that I've had, when they're in an environment that is constantly feeding them full of this bullshit, they start believing it. And
Hmm.
then they have to listen to these stories of these other women, and because women are supposed to be so empathetic and all about the feelings, it's almost like they take on other people's trauma and then want to fight for them,
Hmm.
whether they're being honest or not.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's tricky because I can see that, I definitely been a victim to that. Like, you get around a group of people that all think a certain way, and in the beginning you start faking it because you just want to fit in. I just want to fit into this crowd for
Right.
whatever the fuck the reason is. I want to
Right.
fit into this crowd. So you start just picking up all the bullshit that they do, all the bullshit that they say. And in the back of your head in the beginning, you're like, I know this is bullshit, but this is how
Right.
everybody's, and then eventually, if you do that long enough, you end up becoming like fake it till you make it, in that way
Right.
where you're like, well, I was faking it. Now I made it here and I'm actually this person. And that goes with any culture. That goes with fucking punk rock, like posers, or, like if you even try to be into hip hop and you're not from that really,
Yeah.
eventually you're like faking it. But then 2, 3 years go by, you figure it out how to be cool, what to say, what not
Right.
to say,
Right.
right?
Yeah. No, I went through that when I was a teenager. I loved rap and hip hop, and I had that phase where I put the 12 and behind my seat in my truck and was bumping bass stuff, and yeah, you almost take on that culture.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that's what I see them doing here. That's what I see them trying to
Yeah.
do here. It's
Yeah.
basically you're fitting in. That's why so many people, and this goes across the board too, not just
Yep.
with feminism. It goes across
All
the board. That's
cultures.
why so many people just parrot the same thing somebody else
Yeah.
said. Like if you go
Yeah.
down an echo chamber of any
Yeah.
sort, you find
Yeah.
people just saying the exact same thing. It's like, yeah, but
Yep.
that's it. Do you have any new information for me, or you
Right.
just have the
Yeah.
same 10 facts?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them aren't even facts.
Well, yeah.
They're what they've been fed that has made them emotional, and that's what they've attached to that story. So
Right.
that's where they're. I mean, because it actually makes them feel guilty too. Like they guilt and
Right.
shame these people into these cults. I look at them as cults because it's the same thing
Right.
as like in the psychology. They talk about right narcissistic abuse and love bombing and all those things. I mean, that's literally what these feminists do to each other when they're constantly giving them, all the superficial pleasantries and, overinflating their egos superficially. They're
Right.
like, oh, I love you, you're awesome. They're love bombing them. So it gets them attached to this group identity, I think.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I've
Yeah.
definitely been in a mini cult before where
Really.
that's exactly how it happened. I'm doing music. The guy's like, hey, come over here. We have a bunch of people. We all love you.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of love bombing.
Yeah.
Later, I found out that he would like prep people, and they weren't really the smartest of people either. Like they were kind of, they were kind of dumb. They
Yeah.
weren't really, or airheadish, or didn't really care about shit. So it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. Okay, so
Right.
when Potent comes, we're gonna show him mad love and be like, hey, we heard every song. Oh, I love that song, and this, that, and the third,
Right.
just to like reel me in to
Yep.
be a part of this little clique.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same thing you're saying.
Yeah. I think it is. And I think all these group identities, like I don't understand these group identities myself. Especially groups based on inalienable traits like race and sex.
Right.
I mean, they just kind of seem racist and sexist to me.
Right.
Like instead of
Absolutely.
the old school way to do racism where you're like, oh, we're going to deny these people these opportunities because we dislike them and we don't want people of a certain sex or race in this space. They went directly opposite, and they're like, oh, well, we're going to give all these people preferential treatment because of their race and sex. And it's the same.
Right.
I mean, when that's your primary focus, that literally makes you sexist and racist. Like,
Yeah.
they don't consider the character, the individual identity of a person.
Right. It's about the collective. Are you on
Yeah.
this side or are you on that side?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been like it's going crazy in that direction with everything. With everything, the politics is just becoming even more divided.
Yeah.
Nationalities, race, the gender,
Yeah.
uh, the gay, trans, like all that, like they're separated and they're coming down and everybody's super hard. Everybody has to fight each other. It's just
Yep.
becoming ridiculous.
Well, I think it's just a manifestation of our problem, though, because we are literally in the middle of a culture war. And when you're in war, it's always us versus them. You pick a side because it's like the most logical thing is like you have these two sides that are warring against each other. You wouldn't have all these different people. I mean, that would be what, like a battle royale or...
Right.
What would it
right.
be when you have multiple people like beating each other's asses? Like,
All fighting, yeah, it's like battle royale, Royal Rumble, if you're into wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people think that way because they are in a culture war. But I personally think it, like, fundamentally, it started with the war between the sexes, because feminism has been a creeping problem in our country for like 243 years. So.
Right. Which, I mean, I get feminism 40 years ago. I get feminism 30 years ago.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I get it because I've seen, you know, what they, as far as culture, as far as what they pushed out into the media, because they were pushing out some shit where, like, you know, people always have that reference of the honeymooners, like where the guy would be like, to the moon, Alice, and he would act like, I'm gonna fucking punch you out. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And it was funny to men, but it's offensive to women if you're really getting your ass beat at home, right?
Yeah, but how is that any different than what happens currently? When
No, we're not talking about currently. I'm not talking about currently, Mandy. I'm talking about at that time. I understood it at that time, right?
But
we want to be fair.
How many people were actually getting their asses beat at home?
I think a lot. I think a lot. Yeah, I think a lot. Because dudes had all the control and they weren't really locking dudes up. Like, you beating your wife's ass,
right?
I'm lock you up. It was kind of like, hey, you should have stayed out. You know, why were you talking to that dude? Or why the hell did you leave the house? Or whatever the fuck it was. Because I know, like, my grandfather, for instance, my grandmother did not work a day. But she also didn't go shopping. All she went to was church and home.
Yeah.
And that was his doing. No, you stay right there. I'm going to go do everything. You know, I'm Puerto Rican. So they're really traditional in that regard. But so, okay, we need to balance some of it out. But now it's becoming to a point where the balance is here.
Yeah.
We're not going to get any more balance than what we already have. And they're still pushing for more.
Well, I think they've gone way beyond balanced. It is so unequal, it's ridiculous. Something that you mentioned, though, because I was looking at the timeline in the history of feminism and the movement. Now, there was a period of time after war where a lot of the men came back with what, you know, is known now as CPTSD or PTSD. And there was a lot more domestic violence then. But I don't think that was natural. I don't think it's a natural mode for our human existence. I think it was due to the war stuff.
It's not all about domestic violence.
Yeah.
There's definitely a big part of that, or at least a part of that, but it was more about just women having the right to go and work. You know, like, there was a time that women couldn't work. There was a time that, and that time has passed. You know what I mean? Like, that time has passed.
But
what they're doing now,
women have always worked. I mean, they've always played a key role in the family and in society.
Correct. But we're talking about, like, getting your own money. Because if you don't have your own money, then you're under the thumb of somebody that has all the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's not that hard to extort money from men, especially if it's your husband. I mean, when you're together, it's your money.
Yes, nowadays, Mandy. Nowadays, it's not that hard. A guy's like, all right, here's the money. Back in the day, it was like my grandmother would, like, here's an example that I heard from my family. My mom told me this. My grandmother would, like, buy a little trinket because people used to come around the house, like, with little statues and little, like, whatever the fuck. and try to sell things door to door. And she bought something, but it
Yeah.
was like, oh, you pay weekly. So every week they'll come back to the house and you give them $1 or whatever for like. So my grandfather was like, but for how many? Like he was so fucking upset about her buying this little trinket
Right.
this one time because it was going to be like $20 or whatever over
Right.
time. Right. So it was kind of like that. Like you
Did she
can't
have,
spend money.
right.
Huh?
Did she
You
have to
can't.
pay interest on that?
No, it wasn't interest. It
Oh,
was just one of those like rent to own type things
yeah.
before rent to own was like a store.
Yeah,
So
that's more
this,
expensive.
right, right. So he was mad about that. Like this is more expensive, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to do that, if they have their own money, then they can go ahead and do that, right? So those are the things that we're talking about history, like 70 years ago or some shit.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that's not the case anymore at all, right?
Mhm.
But that's why we both feel we're both on the same page here
Yeah.
that they have taken it overboard,
Oh, way too far. Way too
way
far.
overboard. Like you already have equal, or you've been had equal. Now you're saying,
Way
was
over.
I
Yeah.
agree with you because I said, yeah, we have equal. No, we had equal. Maybe 15 years ago. Maybe 15, 20 years ago. It was equal. Nowadays, it's not equal. Hasn't been equal to me as far as I can see. Uh, 5, 10 years. Because and it's becoming worse. It's becoming progressively worse because of the fact that it's hitting us from all angles. The politics, music,
Right.
movies.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
5, 10, 15 years ago, what I mean is 15 years ago, it wasn't equal. I mean, it was equal in movies, it was equal in music. Now, it's not even equal in music.
Right.
If you look at who's getting out, like who's getting promoted, who's putting out the most music, who's getting put on the radio,
Yep.
it's women.
Yeah.
And the things that they're saying
Yes.
are
Abusive.
detrimental to, yeah, they're abusive, they're detrimental to society
Yes.
because there's no way that a man could be a man. You're pushing them down politically and saying, oh, you can't say that, you can't do that, you got to be like this, you got to be like that. And
Yeah.
then culturally, movies are showing plenty of movies with women being the smartest, powerful, and the dudes are dipshits. There might be a hunk, but he's like an airhead and shit. And that
Yeah.
shit doesn't translate. It's not even real life.
It's
You know what I
not.
mean?
It's not real life. And that's the thing that I don't like about this feminism stuff, because every feminist, even going back to like 60s and looking up a whole bunch of stuff, the feminists of the 60s, they used the same language that they currently do today. It's very self-centered. It's all about me and what I want, and I'm not going to care about the other. Like, and they think they're better than men, which that superiority complex, I'm not a fan of that. And they
Correct.
think
I
that they
mean,
can do everything better than men. But something that really bothers me, I think, the most about all of this is it seems like women aren't aware of what their actual superpowers are, what they should be responsible for in society. I mean, because men and women are different. Okay. I mean, men and women think differently. But men are more physically superior than women.
correct.
Women are more emotionally superior than men. Like, that's
Correct.
our job. Like, all this manipulation and psychological abuse stuff, and that they talk about in the mental health field. I'm like, that's a woman's realm.
Right.
Like, that should be what women are responsible for. So when I look out and I see all this serious emotional and psychological abuse that women just spout off constantly to men, I mean, degrading them in the public space on TV is one of those things. I mean, if
Right.
that was reversed, like if men didn't hold men accountable for their superpower against women, could you imagine watching TV and seeing women get their asses beat all the time, and then other men like clapping about it and, yeah, you go, boy? Like, it's not like that. Men hold the men accountable for their strength. Women don't, though.
Right.
Which
Right.
I don't get that.
Right. It's it's that's where it's fucked up
Yep.
because women will always. I heard on a podcast a couple days ago, a girl would be like, if a girl got into a man's phone today, and they say they're dating, and a girl gets into the man's phone, her friend would be like, "You go, sis. Yeah, you
Right.
better check that phone, whatever." Like,
Right.
but if a man went into a girl's phone out of
Yeah.
insecurity or whatever, it
Right.
would be like, "Oh my God, he's crazy. You gotta get rid of him."
Right. Yeah. Well,
Oh,
if it
he's
wasn't for the double standards, I don't think these crazy bitches would have any at all. Potent. Like, seriously. It's
right.
like they can do whatever they want. Like they're something that I found kind of weird because I've been kind of into psychology since I was a kid because my mom was screwed up, super screwed up,
Mhm.
and she claimed it was hereditary and that I would end up to be just like her, which I didn't really believe her because I just knew that she was a liar my entire life. I'm like, why would I believe just this one thing? So I started doing a lot of reading at the library just on different things, and yeah, I don't actually, I don't even know where I was going with that originally.
No doubt. So here's a question
Hmm.
because you mentioned something in the
Oh,
DMs
standard.
about you
Yeah.
said, "Hey, that might be my mom or it's
Right.
this other chick," right?
Yeah.
So I went and I blocked it. But you
Oh, PJ
saying,
Camel.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you saying that might be your mom,
Yeah.
that gave me like, oh, okay, so you have issues with your mom,
Oh, yeah. Big ones.
right?
Yeah.
So do you think that that kind of pushed you in a direction to be the anti-feminist?
Um, I wouldn't even call myself an anti-feminist. I would call myself a detester of lies and hypocrisy. That's it. Like it, and I've never been super religious, or that's why I don't do any of the group identity anythings because there's liars and hypocrites in every single group. And
Right.
I don't like that. But going back to where I was going to go, the boundaries thing, right? Like these women that expect, this long list of things, they expect that kind of treatment, but they're not willing to give that kind of treatment to others. Like that's what I never understood about this. It's like a disconnect. It's like I want to be treated this way, but I'm not going to treat you this way in return. But I demand that you treat me this way no matter how shitty I am to you. Like that
I
doesn't
understand
seem
that.
fair. So,
I understand that. I understand that. Like, so, because where I was going was, you have a problem. You had a situation with your mom, right?
oh yeah, she's
So
awful.
you can see where women can be
Oh
awful.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I had same situation, similar situation. I don't know exactly what you went through, but uh, my mom was, she's just self-centered. She's just all about herself,
Yeah.
right? And it was to her detriment because she couldn't keep a man. And when she got a guy, like she had my stepfather for like 10 years, all she did was beat him down. As soon
Yeah.
as he got the chance to build himself up, he got a
Yep.
job, he's working good, he's making some money, so now he's feeling good about himself. Now
Right.
he's trying to fill the shoes of the man, right?
Right.
She would chop him at the knees.
Yep.
So he would like either self-destruct or self-sabotage and be like, hey, fuck this job, then I ain't working no more, I'm gonna fucking
Yeah.
stay in bed, and she
Yeah.
would rather have him stay in bed and we'll be broke
Right.
so
Yeah.
she could have the power
Yeah.
than let
Yeah.
him thrive and be the man that he was supposed to be.
See, and I don't get that. My mom was awful. She went through I don't know how many. I think 9 marriages. And there was one point where she was married to two people at the same time. She like went to a different state and got married to this guy. But yeah, no, my mom was the most self-centered. Um, I just refer to her as more of a parasite because she would never do anything in return. She would just take, take, take. And she was abusive on all the levels physically, emotionally, mentally, sexually, like all the abuses. She hit all the fucking marks. And there was 4 of us kids. So I watched her abuse boys, girls, multiple stepdad kind of figures, my father, anybody that would, anybody that she could con into helping her because she needed help. So, yeah. I mean, I never thought anybody was ever as bad as her until I got older and started spending more time online. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of women that are left unchecked that get away with doing this because that's why she kept doing all the things, because she would get away with it.
Correct. Yeah,
So,
I figured it out when I started touring.
yeah.
As soon as I started touring, because when you're touring and you're just in a van with 8 dudes, you end up you have to stay somewhere. You can't stay at the hotel all the time. That's going to be expensive. So then you end up being like, oh, like a fan. Like my mom will let you all stay here, and then
Yeah.
we would stay at the house. Her mom, had a husband, but she's still trying to fuck one of the dudes in the band. She's still,
Right. Right.
she's basically controlling the whole situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so, and I've seen it a few times. It's like, oh shit, this is an ongoing pattern. I keep on meeting this people that are not like-minded, but like experienced. You know what I mean? Like we went through the same type of shit.
Yeah. The same war zone.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're from different parts of the world, like,
Yeah.
different parts of America and shit.
Yeah.
So that's when
Yeah.
I noticed it was a pretty big deal.
I connected with a lady from New York. I mean, we're the exact same age. We grew up on opposite sides of the US, and a lot of our upbringing was very similar. I mean, even down to her mom trying to take her kids away. Like, because my mom has been dependent on the government my entire life. So, uh, when all of her kids were grown and she wasn't getting any more benefits, she actually tried to take my sister's kids away, which my sister's an alcoholic. My sister wasn't able to get away. Like, my mom still messes with the rest of my family. I had to move out of state to get away from it, but
Mm.
she tried to take her children away, but she had to set it up first. She always put her in these situations. She's like, oh, go out, go party, go, go do this and this. And then she's documenting meanwhile while she's taking care of her grandkids. I mean, she'd give her money to go drinking and then complain that she was drunk when
She's
she got
drinking.
home.
Right.
Yeah.
She's drinking too much.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, my mom wasn't as vindictive. She just would try to get what she wanted to get, and luckily she didn't really want that much stuff.
Yeah.
She was good with what she had, but the little things that she needed, she would find a way to weasel it out of somebody,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, what do you think is the end goal for the people that are pushing all these different pronouns?
End goal is to make everybody feel better and not be offended. So not hurting people's feelings, I think, is their end goal en masse.
Yeah, you think it's just for safety reasons?
They call it safety, but it's because little snowflakes complain that their feelings got hurt. And they see a lot of times words as violence. I mean, they talk about microaggressions now,
Right.
which is a
Right.
perceived thing. So even if, like, say a student at the university, because this is where these things are bred from, is the universities. If a student from the university notices somebody and they look at them weird, whatever their perception of what just happened, whatever, insecurities are in them and how they
Right.
take that interaction, they consider that a microaggression, and that person that did the looking needs to be punished.
Mm.
That's the exact opposite of actually what needs to be happening, because that is a personal problem that person has. So instead of changing the environment, that person needs to change. Because, I mean, microaggression, a look, violence, come on, that's That's a bit
Right.
much.
Right. Hold on.
Yeah.
K-Dread, can't interact with people. Might interact with them later on in the show, but when I do the show, I'm talking to the person that's there and I'm trying to give them full, you know, full interaction, full eye contact, full attention on them. So it would go, towards the end where I can dabble with the chat a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're in Texas, right? So how is the
Yeah.
feminism ideology affecting the culture in Texas? And what's the big way you've seen it change?
I mean, I live in College Station, which is where Texas A&M University is. And it's actually Bryan College Station. It's like a little Twin City area. And I mean, culturally, I don't see it, but I see it taught at the universities. I mean, Texas A&M was one of the last universities to even let women in because it was a all-male military school. But they've been changing it the past 6 years or so pretty quickly, because I've been here for 13 years and it's changing really fast, and it's actually really concerning. Because these feminists get these jobs and they have like a gender studies department, and then they start indoctrinating these, I call them domestic terrorists, these feminists, because they're literally terrorizing people. Like,
Right.
yeah. I mean, when they're constantly trying to make you change your behavior because it makes them feel bad that you're doing something, I consider that terrorism. So
Correct. I think we have a big problem with like borderline personality disorder.
yeah.
A way bigger problem than we realize. I feel like a lot of people are, excuse me, a lot of people have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, but I think it leans more towards being just BPD than people actually realize, and it's fucking up the whole ecosystem of what we're doing, in society.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck we're gonna do about that though, because
I don't even like all those labels either. I mean,
yeah, but
it's just a list of
it's the
behaviors,
best.
right?
Right, but it's the best way to categorize it, Like
Yeah.
if I say that one thing, I don't have to say a whole sentence of everything that they're doing. People, if you care, you can go and look up what that
Oh,
is, and
yeah.
then you can see for yourself. You can see,
That's,
oh shit, you're kind of being like that.
yeah. That's why I used the term crazy bitch.
Right.
Because crazy has a list of things to it. Also, bitch does too. A list of behaviors.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see what I got here for you. So here's a funny one. There was actually a news article about a woman complaining. She was in school. She's like a journalist, but she also studies gender roles and different things like that, right? So she went on VR.
What's VR?
And virtual reality.
Okay.
Okay. So she went on virtual reality and she was playing a game and she was getting groped on virtual reality. And she felt so offended because her avatar in virtual reality was getting groped by other avatars in virtual reality. So now they're trying to like implement what?
Sexual harassment policies.
Correct. In virtual reality. They're real. They need to be done. Seriously. No, like that's
So what led up to that though? Because there's a lot of women that behave in such a sexual manner and then get surprised when people respond sexually to them.
correct.
That's weird.
Correct. Right. It's like girls have their ass plastered all over social media. Right. But if a dude came through and said, damn, that ass fat though,
right,
then it's like, whoa, why you say that? Right? It's right there. That is the picture. The picture of your ass. But if somebody was to say your ass is fat,
yeah,
you're like offended.
But that's a compliment, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. It's like these women, it's like this whole look but don't touch. I'm going to tease you, but like I'm going to do something that I know is going to make you react, and then as soon as you do, I'm going to beat your ass for it. Like I feel like that's just another form of terrorism.
Right. Bullying.
Yes,
Really, yeah.
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 And that's a power trip thing that's really weird.
Absolutely. So, why do you think you've been getting so much hate
From who?
for doing what you do? Because obviously, I've been on your channel.
Yeah,
You know, you put up stuff, and obviously, there's that one person that comes in and changes
that's the
their
same person.
name. The
Yeah,
same person that
yeah.
comes in is so there's that person, but then you had like beef with another YouTube channel,
Oh,
right?
Universal Mother.
Right. So how did you get into that situation? Like, how did you get so much hate from all that?
Well, I've been
What
looking
what
for
sparked
crazy
it?
bitches to talk to, like legitimate, like super crazy bitches that are what I would identify as a feminist. Because like when I look at feminists, they're very man hating. So any and another target of mine has been anybody with any kind of psychology credentials in the field, because I know feminists have taken over the psychology field. So you have a bunch of lying, man hating women responsible for the mental health of our society. So that's why
Mhm.
a lot of the masculinity has been pathologized. So
Right.
when I see women behave in a certain way, I just want to add them to my list because I'm collecting examples of how crazy and unprofessional these fucking women are and how they have no business being in that field. I mean, they have destroyed this field.
Correct.
So
Um.
that beef, like with Universal Mother, she went to a MGTOW channel and made a fool of herself. And then instead of accepting that she made a fool of herself, she started attacking men that
Right.
I actually talk to all the time, like that didn't deserve that kind of treatment. So I started trying to talk to her and kind of redirected her attention on me. That is the most action I've gotten this whole past year. I've been trying to provoke all these feminists. I've been trying to have these conversations. I've written so many, no responses. Like none of them will even have a conversation. They are such cowards and they're liars and they know it.
Right. So, what is your goal for trying? Because I asked you this in the DMs as well. Like, you want to be able to sit down and have what was in DMs was like a comment on YouTube. Uh,
Yeah.
that you want to sit down and have a proper discussion with
Yeah.
some of these feminists,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. With somebody that
and I
identifies as a feminist because I want
right,
to know why they believe
but
these
I
things.
yeah, that's what you want to know. Because I
Yeah.
asked you, I said, what do you think that the end game, like, what do you think is gonna happen by
Yeah.
you conversating with somebody that is completely illogical and they're not going to play fair? There is going to be a mud fight. So it's basically like arguing with a narcissist. You're
See,
going
I
to
don't.
argue with them and they're never going to agree. They're not going to be like, oh, well, actually, yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
You know?
Um. I don't. I'm not trying to debate anybody. I'm just curious and have a lot of questions why they believe these lies and why they've made this their life's work. I mean, I know part of it is a lot of families that send their kids to university. Like I've run in three of my clients so far. This has happened to. They sent their daughters to university, expecting it to be the same university that they went to, and things have changed so much, and they literally brainwashed their daughter into all these group identity politics and this feminism. And I mean, when these girls come home for Christmas and they're constantly now nagging their straight white dad and calling him racist and sexist and all the language that they use, but this shit's entrained into them at university. So they prey on their emotions, get them all,
Mm-hmm.
freaked out, scared, sad,
Mm-hmm.
guilty, feeling ashamed for their privilege. Like it fucks these girls up, and then they go out and cause problems within their family.
Right. Yeah. It's I the way I see it, I don't know if I'm being a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but the way I
Yeah.
see it is it comes from the reason why there's so much leeway on their behalf comes from corporations. Because if you really look at it statistically, women spend the most money. Even if it's the guy's money, women still spend the most money. There's so many more things to buy as a woman.
Yeah.
You got to buy makeup. There's eyelashes. There's
Yeah.
the hair dyes, the
Right.
everything that you think of. Like men are good. Like I get a T-shirt. I rock that shit for 2 years. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to impress nobody, right?
Right.
A lot of and even the dudes that do, they're doing it for women. But
Right.
women are just spending so much more money, and they're in control of the spending dollars that
Yeah.
corporations have just bent to their will and are making sure that, hey, okay, so that's what you, okay, so yeah, cool, go girl, do your thing, all right, whatever it is. That's why you have so many women musicians right now
Yeah.
at the top of the at the top of on the top of the game,
Yeah.
because they're gonna sell you so much shit. That's why you have a Kim Kardashian that's gonna push all these different type of products, so women could be like, okay, Kim K does this, that, and the third. I need to be like Kim K. I need to have this, that, and the third. A man usually doesn't think that way. A
Yeah.
man will go, I so what, that motherfucker got that shit. I'm good with where I'm at. Like I don't need to
Yeah.
be like, oh, he's doing that. Gotta do it too. Like we don't feel that way,
Yeah.
and at least not as often as women do. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's a whole play to continue to squish down the man, because now you have even OnlyFans, right? So
Right.
guys are spending their money
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
OnlyFans.
Women will always extract resources from men. They will always find a way to do it.
Correct.
But
And
but
now,
I
go
think
ahead.
that consumer thing, I think it's more of a supply and demand thing, because these women are already
Yeah,
buying these things. So these
yeah,
companies will say, okay, I want them to buy my thing. And that is capitalism. Like
right.
I don't blame a corporation for something an individual should be responsible for.
Yeah, but for me, I feel like a lot of individuals are not that savvy. They can't see behind the curtain. They can't see the wizard behind the curtain. They don't know he's there. You get what I'm saying? They're in
Right,
Oz,
but
and they don't see the wizard behind the curtain. So they're only seeing like whatever's been told to them. That's why they're like it's surface level. That's why when you even have if you had a conversation with a feminist,
yeah,
you wouldn't get too far before it becomes mudslinging and name calling, because there's only but so much. And then once you get into the deep parts of it, it's like,
right,
well, because you did that, oh, you just want to be a pick me. Oh, you just like that's why there's these names to call people
yeah,
to
name
dismiss
droppings.
to
Yeah,
dismiss their case.
yeah. But they're just names. No, I
Right.
have a client that I didn't even know was a feminist until I started my channel. When I came up with this conclusion about, all the things, and I started my channel and I talked to her, but yeah, she's literally a gender studies professor. I've been doing her hair for like 10 years before she was even married. I cut her son's hair. Like, I did her hair for her wedding. She's not a man hating feminist. So, yeah, I didn't even realize, because every conversation that we had and all the things she does, I mean, she's not what you see online as feminists. Like, and her biggest problem, because all the feminists, because it's not a collective, right? You have all these different groups that have all these different ideas of what feminism means to them, because everything's a subjective truth and definition now. But her major thing was how shitty they are towards mothers and wives, and how they dismiss motherhood, and almost put that in the back seat, and put the career as center focus and top priority. But what started that was women that actually couldn't have a family, that they put that as focus. So their hate and resentment towards seeing other families and being happy, they started tearing those apart and shaming and guilting them and trying to convince women that no, job is top priority. That is your
Right.
main focus in life, not your family.
Right. And again, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I think this is a big plot to divide the people, to continue to divide the people, to continue to separate people. So that way, we as a society, as a whole, we are not strong enough to fight against all the bullshit that happens to us if we continue to fight amongst each other. This has been happening with blacks and whites. This has been happening, it's been happening forever. So now I felt like maybe 10, less than like over 10 years ago, there was a sweet spot where we were starting to get together, everybody, all cultures, we all liked similar things. We were all kind of becoming one in that regard. But then it became all of this shit, which is like, whoa, where all this come from? Now people are hating each other more than ever. And it's like, how did that happen? How did that happen? Was it just some one person bitching on the side? I don't think so. I think there's a lot that goes into play. That's why when I watch movies and I see that they're pushing an agenda, and I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't even a movie. This is like propaganda. This is fucking material to get people in one way or another.
But that agenda is the same agenda that over 200 years ago, a small number of people in our country was pushing. So it has been gaining steam and spreading for a long time. I mean, there's been points in our history where it kind of kicked it back. But in the 60s, I think with birth control, getting women into universities, they started going into government and growing our government at a higher rate. Because it's the same agenda. It's women above men. It's the war between the sexes.
Right, but I mean, 200 years ago, that wasn't. I wouldn't think would be beneficial or would work. Now, because of the situation that we have, everything is so cushy, everything is so easy. And humans are usually just problem finders. We like to find what's wrong. What's wrong? What can I fix? You know what I mean? Right? So because there is no problems, now people are finding problems, like that fucking VR. Like, I was groped in VR. Like,
there's a lot of problems, but the women keep the attention off of them because they blame the men for them. So there's many problems that need to be fixed currently.
No doubt.
A lot of the people that are causing them are not taking accountability for that. So, I think the internet has played a big role because now information travels so fast. Like, a meme could travel throughout the entire world in like an hour.
Yeah.
Right? And so all these spoiled, hateful, and resentful people that have too much time on their hands spend a lot of time online. And their message echoes and travels, and it reaches a lot more people. So
correct, because if you get off the internet, people are living the way people always lived.
Right.
You know, like if you go work at a store, you see how people come in. It's not like the women are just controlling the men. It's not like the men are just being shitty to the women. Yeah, there is some of that, but it's mainly people getting together, and they're together. They have a family. The woman's supporting the man. The man's there playing his role.
Yeah.
I've seen this from plenty of places that I've worked. People are normally or naturally, they're gonna do what they do.
Yeah.
But if you let social media tell it, if you let the movies tell it, if you let music tell you, then you're gonna be confused to think that that's not how it really works. And that's why we have so many women that are like, they're complaining they don't need a man, but you can see that they're lonely as fuck,
It's a
that
lie.
they're
That's a lie.
miserable as fuck. Yeah, you
That's a
can tell that they're
lie.
miserable, of course.
Well, no, but I mean they wouldn't be here if it wasn't for men. Like, come on. Yeah, that's stupid.
Of-
Yeah, that's what I never understood about the feminists being strong, independent women. I'm like, okay, if you're so strong and independent, why are you making all these people do shit for you then? Like, I
Right,
know people need people. People need communities.
right.
People need connections. They develop relationships. There's reciprocity there. Feminists are like, I don't need any of you, but I need you, and I'm going to use the hell out of you, but I'm not going to offer you anything but abuse in return. Like that. That's going
Absolutely.
back to that double standard thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Mandy Wolf, I
Mhm.
appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thanks.
Let everybody know where they can find you, how they can reach you, and all that shit.
Oh, reach me for what?
Tell your channels. Tell them where
Oh,
your channel is, your Instagram, all that jazz.
I mean,
Re-
well, I guess it's Godmother now. I dropped a note. It was Good Mother.
mhm.
And then Instagram, I guess Mandy the Wolf. I don't know how to do this promotion thing. I'm not really trying to promote myself for anything
Hey,
specific.
people are gonna pay attention to this, right? And then
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, hey, maybe I want to see more shit that she talks about, and then
Well,
they'll go there. It's not about like, hey,
yeah,
I'm selling a fucking book. Hey, buy my
yeah.
merchandise.
Yeah, but something with my channel's not. I'm not a content creator. I'm literally technologically fucking retarded. I can barely stream, and it's only because my son set it up for me. He went and got the equipment, and he did the things. So I can host conversations if people want to talk, and that's what my channel kind of became, kind of a place where people just come up on the panel and talk and share their experiences, a place where men can't get canceled or shamed for, speaking their truth.
Right, right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean,
So
but I've had a lot of women on too, not
right.
feminists.
But that's your channel. I want you to
Yeah.
promote it, right? I want you to make sure everybody goes
Okay.
there, check that shit out, and that is that, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate you. Thanks everybody in the chat. I appreciate everybody in the chat sticking it out with us, talking, listening to us, giving you 2 cents and shit. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed, like, comment, do all the things, press all the buttons except for dislike. This is the Street Shaman Podcast. I am Shamanic Poe, aka Poe the Rockstar. I'm here with Mandy Wolf from the Godmother YouTube channel. And we out of here, motherfuckers.